Welcome to the clock shop, folks. Off the wall and on the bench, we have a Seth Thomas number 2. You might recall if you follow the channel, when I was repairing the English pub clock, I did ask if you would like to see an overhaul on this type of clock, and a few of you said yes, so here we are. Let me get the camera set up and we'll get to work on it. Let's go ahead and get the movement out here. Carefully lay that aside, the bezel that is. We don't need to do anything down in the lower regions here where the pendulum is. We're just going to focus up here to get the movement out. But first we got to get the hands off, the dial's got to come off, and then we'll go from there. These are pretty simple clocks. I've always liked the number 2. Don't have one, never had one. Like to get one. I've worked on quite a few of them though. Very common to use these in railroad stations and other public places. Oftentimes you'll see on the bottom glass maybe a railroad stenciled on it. Sometimes even on the dial. You can see this has an S&T for Seth Thomas here. Oftentimes I see initials written inside here on this wooden piece that goes across. We'll see if we have that here in this clock. Well, these are initials. Let me grab a container here. That's what I'm doing right now. Put stuff in. I was saying these initials usually are from previous repair people. It's interesting to see the dates that you come across in here too of the repairs. I did one of these. I did a service call on one of these down at a Quaker meeting house in our area, just to lubricate the clock. Left it up on the wall, took the dial off. It was very stodgy. It was very dry. It wouldn't run, and just lubricated it. But inside there was numerous written signatures and dates. One of them actually looked like it was from the person who sold it. Maybe a jeweler, I think, was written in there from like 1909, which is what I would date this clock from, right around the very early 1900s. This is a screw that screws into the center brace I was talking about. We'll get that out. It's like it's partially stripped. It doesn't seem to want to come out cleanly. The hole is stripped, I should say. The hole's been widened. It's happened. And the screw just wants to turn. Oh, get it out. There we go. It's a nice old dial. You can see the checking on it. I don't know whether the camera can pick it up, but the paint starts to check on these as the years go by. Dries out. So we'll have to be careful of this dial. We don't want to lose any more paint. Some loss may be inevitable as we're working on it. And I'll try not to. So some of these holes here are just stripped out. Somebody looks like it has touched up a section over here where the paint had flaked off. There's a couple of sections here right around the edge possibly that was touched up around the screw holes. Okay, we should be able to get the dial off, lift right off. We do have a nice signature in here, dated 1901. I don't know if the camera can pick that up. Let me see if I can focus or zoom in on it. Right there. But I only see one. I don't know if I can read it here. D, is that an M or W? That's too difficult for me to read. I see February, possibly 16th, 1901. It was probably a repair date. Somebody probably serviced it. Probably had its 2-year or maybe lubrication. It's interesting. Zoom it back out here. Alright, we'll take these screws out. We need to remove this center brace. I'll be filling some of these screw holes in before we put everything back together, just so the screws can bite. You see how there's an opening here for the winding, and there's an opening here to gain access to, I guess, the pivot hole here if you want to lubricate it without having to take anything off of it. We'll take this off. This is here for an overhaul, folks, just to mention that. I'm not sure I did. We're going to take the movement out of it here. Now, one thing we can do is just take the pins out. You can see there's taper pins here holding this onto the bracket. We turn the bracket screwed to the back of the case, and that's where the pendulum was affixed to the back of the bracket. So all you need to do is just remove these pins, which come out quite easily, actually. Should be 4 of them, and there are. And there's our movement. Very simple. Very functional. No strike, just time only. These run about 8 days on the winding. Cable looks like it's in pretty good shape. I prefer to use the brass cable. It just looks nicer along with the brass weight. We'll set this aside. We can get this case back up on the wall. Get it out of our way. I can put it right up there. Got my little space heater going in the shop today, folks. It's getting cold out. We got a polar vortex coming in, and that actually is in advance of a huge snowstorm we're going to get hit with here, as well as millions of other people here in the southern states of the U.S. and in the eastern seaboard of the U.S. So we're all hunkering down for that. I think we're supposed to get about maybe a foot here. Might mix with some freezing rain and sleet. That might keep the snow totals down a little bit, but some places are going to get 2 feet. Doesn't look like we will, but it'll still be significant. See if we can get this up here. Yeah, there we go. All right, our case is out of the way. Now we can start on the movement. Let me move the camera around and get it repositioned here, folks, and I'll get back to you. All right, let's get this on the movement supports here so we can work on it. I've got this purposely sitting close by here so I don't walk off the camera too far. I have done that in the past. I get to working and I don't even think about it. All right, let's get these screws out here. We'll use my old Mentor screwdriver here. I spoke about that in the last video. I'm sure this his family gave his tools to me after he passed away back in 2002. No, sorry, it was 2001. This screwdriver has probably taken apart many of these movements, since I'm sure he worked on a lot of these over his lifetime. This has maintaining power, so we can go ahead and release that. I'll show you how that works later. interesting. The plate wants to pop up here, like it's bent or flexing. It's interesting. As I take these screws out. There we are. Simple but elegant. We have a deadbeat escapement here. There's our maintaining power right there. It's got like a little spring. You'll see that when I take these apart. There's a little spring, circular spring inside here on the other side of this ratchet wheel that keeps tension on it as you wind it so that it doesn't stop ticking, doesn't lose any time. They're pretty important for these clocks to be fairly accurate in timekeeping because they were used in train stations. And other, like I said, other public places. Take the pallets out here. So there we are. Center wheel. I'm just going to go ahead and cut this cable. I'm going to put new brass cable on here. Not that I really need to, but I can't easily untie these knots and try to reuse this cable, so I'm just going to cut it and we'll put some fresh in. It's not original anyway. Original cable is long since gone and deteriorated, I'm sure. So here I am walking off the camera. I'm going to go ahead and cut this here. And this steel cable is pretty strong. It's not that easy to cut. It's not a bad choice if you don't mind the aesthetics. Okay. And we can pull the cable out here. Take the pulley. Pulley's going to go in the cleaner. I'm going to keep this aside. I might measure it. I believe it was the right length of cable. I did check that. So if we measure the new cable and get it close to that, the length as the original, then we should be good. Don't want to put too much on here. You can't put too little, else the weight won't get its full run all the way down. You won't get the full run of the clock. We're going to go ahead and we're going to take this apart so we can clean it. You can see we just have a taper pin right here. See if we can get that out. Just by giving it a push. There we are. And this will come off. There's our spring wire for the maintaining power I'm telling you about. It's in a C shape. This keeps tension on the train as you're winding it, along with that ratchet mechanism. Here's the ratchet actually for the for winding of the clock for the weight cable, and here's our spool for the weight cable. All right, folks, we're all ready to drop this in the cleaner. It's in the garage. The garage is super cold, but I do have a heater in the ultrasonic cleaner, so the fluid has been warming up for the past couple of hours. We'll bring it back when we're ready to assemble. I'm not sure I'm going to show you all that much of the pivot polishing, the bushings. I might have to do one or two, probably not a lot. There's not that many pivot holes in this clock. I see what looks like a bushing there already, so that's been done maybe in the past sometime. Far flung past. I know this pivot hole here had some wear in it, and you can see the black gunk in there. I don't know if the camera can see that, but that probably is going to need a bushing. And that pivot hole is probably going to, or that pivot I should say, is going to need polishing. All right, we'll bring it back once we're ready to either do some bushing work, some pivot polishing, or just maybe assemble the movement. All right, folks, we are back. You might notice a change in wardrobe. It's now a couple days later. I took a couple days off here to get a couple of other things done, and we're back into the Seth Thomas number 2. Weather report. It's actually right in the middle of that snowstorm that everybody's getting down south and here in the mid-eastern, mid-Atlantic states. We got about 5-6 inches out there now, and it's just turned over to sleet. It's just past noon, so looks like our snow totals are going to be cut down with a bunch of sleet possibly on top. I have to get out there and do some snow blowing in a little while. But let's get this finished here first. I'm going to get my gloves on here. Okay. I'm going to put this over here so we can keep the movement in the camera view. A little strange, whatever that little pile of sawdust was. Do we have termites in this house? Man, I hope not. I don't know where that came from. Alright, let's get our movement folders here. Okay, we need to assemble this first to get all the parts we need for this. Put a little bit of oil on this hub right here. I like to do that. That's going to go on first. And we need to put this maintaining power clip in here. You know what, it might be better to do it this way here. Put that in there like that, and then we'll feed this in. See how that works? Oops. Now we have a taper pin that goes in here, and I think it's this one right here. Let's see. Let's see if I got the right pin in there. There it is. It is the right pin. Uh-oh. Well, we gotta take it apart again. See what we did? The clicker's on the wrong side. Get that in there. You can see how that works. We can begin putting our wheels in. Now what I like to do is, and some people may or may not do this, is put a little bit of oil here on the center arbor underneath the arrow wheel. Just a light coating. Because that is actually one end of the pivot. And then we just fit in the other wheels here. This one goes in here like that. Put our escape wheel in. Now we can also put our pallets in. Can do that. You could take this cock off here and put it in afterward, but I think we'll just go ahead and put that in there. We'll see what the depthing is. All right, let's fit this over. Let's see if we have to re-depth it or not. The escapement, that is. All right, now I've been standing up here. We're gonna have to sit down for this. Let me get my tweezers here. Fish that escape wheel through. There we go. Maybe zoom in just a bit closer. I just don't want to get out of the camera view, which is easier to do when you zoom in. And we'll feed these pivots in here. Just need to get the pallets in here. Pivot hole. Well, we forgot something. We forgot something. We might be able to fish this in. This is the ratchet for the maintaining power. Yeah, we can fish that in, no biggie. There we go. Everything is still in. Plastic gloves are a necessity, folks, to keep your fingerprints off. Doing what they can be difficult to work with. I think I got a couple sizes, or maybe one size too large when I bought the last batch of these. That makes it a little more awkward to handle small parts. Alright, let's go ahead and we'll lubricate this. You can see why I put a little lubricant inside the center arbor here, because this actually is a pivot right here. This will pivot on this side of the train, so I think it's advantageous to do that as long as you use good oil. It's not going to dry up with time, at least with a lot of time. I guess all oils do dry up eventually. Better ones take a lot longer to do that. You don't want to forget this pivot hole that is inside there for what I call the ratio wheel. So we're going to hit that with some lubrication. You can see how the maintaining power works here. We're going to go ahead and activate that, and we should have power here on the movement, and we do. So we'll put a drop of oil here on the pallets. All right, I'm going to bring you back wide here. So that movement's all together. All right, we got the cable here, weight cable. And I've got some weight cable here that's used on wall clocks. It's a slightly thinner cable than tall case cable. We're just going to go ahead and match up the length. I do believe this was the right length. maybe a little extra just in case. Bring it up to about there to count for the knot. Bring it down here. Put a little extra off to count for that knot. And we'll see what we get. All these parts that I may show here are available from clock supply places. From, well, what used to be called Merritt's. Merritt's has been sold, and I can't remember the gentleman's name. Even though I've already bought a few items from them since they've taken over Merritt's. Time Savers has this. They sell it as weight cable. I forget the actual measurement, the size. I'll put it up on the screen if I can think of it or find out about it. So let's go ahead and put this cable in here. And see where it goes right here. We'll just make a knot. I like to pull it tight, just like that. Cut a little bit of excess cable off there. And we have the pulley here. We'll have to remember to lubricate that. Put that through there. Well, you know what I should have done? I should have done this cable first here, because it's got to feed through and come up there. We might just do that. It's easy enough to. Well, let's see if we can get this through here. Yeah, that's going to be difficult. Fortunately, it's an easy enough movement to disassemble and reassemble. Trick is to making a knot here that's small enough that we can tuck in there. Doesn't allow for a lot of room for a knot there. Why am I hammering this down? Well, it's possible that this could interfere with the plate. Let's be right up against the plate. We don't want it scratching the plate and somehow interfering with the head shake. So we want to get that knot all the way in there. I think that's good. Fortunately, the cable that they sell is a little too large. And for that reason, you have trouble with that knot. The next size cable down that they sell is for Vienna regulators. It's a little bit too thin. So you gotta have to work with what they offer. All right, let's get this all back together here. By the way, that's the stop for the weight. The pulley comes up and hits against that, so it stops you from winding it any further. You can see why I wanted to get that cable not squished in there. There's very little room. You don't want to have any cables sticking out to get jammed between the plate and the top of the cable barrel here. Okay, everything's nice and free. There we go. Let's see if it was caught on the pallets. I should touch up the oil again since we took the wheels out. Let's move some of this stuff out of the way. You might ask, well, why do you keep putting your tools away and then grabbing the same tool out again a few minutes later? I just like to have a clean desk surface. My desk here isn't all that large, so I like to keep it uncluttered, you know, my work surface, that is. Well, let's go ahead and put a little lubricant on this pulley here before I forget. This was clean, by the way, along with the movement. There we go. Now, I'm going to get you repositioned here so we can get the case back down on the desk. Start putting movement back into the case. Okay, now what I see here is a suspension spring that looks like it's been replaced. This is not an original suspension spring that you would find in number 2. Let's go ahead and open this door up here. So I do have something I think that better represents the number 2 suspension spring. I have one of these left. I think we're going to go ahead and replace that. We'll see how that works out. This would probably work, but just to be sure, I'm going to remove the unhook the pendulum here, remove the towel that was wrapped around it. Okay. The owner had put a towel in it, which is good. I wrapped around the pendulum for transport. See if we can get this suspension out of here. Wow, that pin is in there. Somebody rammed this pin in there. It's a very tight fit. Let's see if we can get it out. Try to pull it out the other way. If I can get it out this way or not. Here we go. See how that's a bit cockeyed too? Didn't notice that until you got it out, so that's a problem also. We'll put something a little better. This one right here will go in there. Let me find a pin that might be more appropriate. Okay, I'll try this pin here. That pin, for some reason, the metal was extra hard on it. I couldn't get my strength to cut it. All right, this might work. Let's try cutting it a little smaller, a little shorter. I like that. Okay, you can cut it slightly shorter. Let's go ahead and put our spring. You see the suspension spring is a very large hole, so there'll be no issues with it binding on the pin. I think that had a problem with the original spring that was in here. Yeah, I just have to get it lined up. Come on, find the hole. Find the bloody hole. Yay! Finally. Alright, that's in there. And it's in there tight. So we can go ahead and hook the pendulum on there. There we go. Alright, let's feed our movement in here. I did see one issue here when I assembled it. I didn't get that ratchet down inside there. This needs to go inside that wheel to work against the ratchet for the maintaining power. So we'll just slightly separate the plates and get that slid in there. I seem to be having a lot of trouble in this very simple movement here. I don't really want to bend it, so we'll just separate the plates and get that in there. Just slightly to the top to lift it up. I'm not going to show you that on camera. I really don't feel like moving the case around to do it. There you are, folks. That's down in there now where it's supposed to be. We're ready to put this in the case. We need to put the crutch here in the slot. This is the weight, by the way, here. I just checked the length of cable. It looks like it's pretty good just by holding the weight at the end of the cable there. I think we're got the right length. If we didn't, hopefully it will be too long and we just have to cut up here a little bit and re-knot it. Don't want too much on there. You can't have too little either. I don't know what the specific length of a number 2 cable should be. Never really measured it. You know, just leave a comment. Maybe you've actually worked on these before if you're watching the video and you know the specific length. Let everybody know. So let's put those taper pins back in and hold the movement in. These are these. Oh, there's some brass ones here and some steel ones. Start with this one up here. I like to just tap them in. Just make sure the pins don't interact with the gearing as they protrude through. Sure we're clear of everything. It goes underneath the center wheel, but doesn't hit it. Lots of room there. I guess these are all brass. So we'll just use the tape here to be the right ones. Could even be original, you never know. Notice I'm using the fiber end of the hammer. I don't want to hit the teeth on the main wheel here with anything but that, in case I do hit it by accident. It looked like the escape wheel was stepped correctly when I manipulated it while I had it in my hands. So I'm going to go ahead and just hang this up on the wall. We'll see what we get, see what it looks like. Notice with that suspension spring that, let me open the glass up again, that the crutch is right there in the center, which tells me that that's the right length suspension spring. They're sold as number 2 suspension springs, that one I had there. You know, like I said, I had the one left, thank goodness. All right, let's get this up on the wall. And we will bring you back when we have it up on the wall and hopefully running. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead, since I'm pretty confident that we have no issues with the escapement, I'm going to go ahead and put this on, put it on the right way, just like that. But I also wanted to fill these holes in. Yeah, that hole's just basically, it's elongated, it's so worn out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I have toothpicks here that we can use for that. These work well. Just like that. We put a little glue on, stick them in there. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay folks, the holes have been all filled in. Let's get this up on the wall. Just a toothpick and some carpenter's glue. That's all we needed for that. It's important actually because you thread the screws in there, you're not biting anything. So we have to take care of that. Alright, let's get this up on the wall. Just to get it running. We need to put the hands on it yet. Make sure that cable's tracking properly. Looks like it is. Looks like that escapement has to be depth a little bit. It's a little too deep. It's going to be a challenge because I don't have a lot of room to work here with this light. So I'm going to try doing it this way. Better. Didn't need much. All I did was just put a little screwdriver right there and just leverage it up a little bit because it was too deep and hanging up on a tooth. We'll make sure that's tight. It's a little too deep. Go ahead and tighten that. It's tight. I'll go ahead and maybe let you listen to the tick if you can hear it. Get you up close to it. Sounds good. Let's wind it up the west of the way. The rest sound like Elmer Fudd. Let's wind it up the west of the way. I'm going to let that run for a while. Maybe a little too much cable, but I think we're all right. Yeah, we should be fine. You might want to shorten it just a little bit. It overlaps just a hair. Don't cause any problems. So we'll get to it. We'll shorten that cable just a bit. Okay, we're going to let the, let me reposition that. We're going to let the glue set in those little wood filler, the toothpicks I put in there. Let that dry, and then put the dial and everything on, and then we'll bring you back a little bit later on to show you the completed clock. going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up. If you like this kind of content, don't hesitate to join the channel and subscribe. If you do subscribe, don't forget to hit that bell notification. We will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.